Diets and dietary principles that you should follow. Now let's start with the ketogenic diet. This is a diet that focuses on the macronutrient fat and restricts the macronutrient carbohydrates. It is not a diet that restricts different food groups, so it is not really aimed at health through different food groups, but instead aimed at the state of ketosis. Now, ketosis and keto adaptation or fat adaptation are two different things. You enter ketosis when you're asleep, or when you fast, or when you're on the ketogenic diet. So you basically enter ketosis every day. You don't have to go on the ketogenic diet to enter ketosis. Keto adaptation is having cellular efficiency when it comes to using fat as an energy source, and this is achieved through not eating carbs or fasting for a very long time. But that is not recommended unless you're very, very healthy. Oh well, a diet that focuses on specific food groups or restricts food groups is the paleo diet, which is a form of ketogenic diet where you're basically eating meat and vegetables. Now, what paleo dieters eat today and what humans ate during the Paleolithic era are two entirely different things. I mean, broccoli started existing during the 15th century, or was found during the 15th century, while, of course, cruciferous vegetables didn't exist in the Paleolithic era. Cruciferous vegetables are enjoyed by many paleo dieters. So, should you go on a paleo diet? Yes, you should try it, of course, and see if it benefits your health, but that's a dietary principle we will get back to. Now, some people find that the anti-nutrients in vegetables cause inflammation, so they take it a step further and go to the carnivore diet, which you might have heard of. Now, the carnivore diet has two sides. One is the side of elimination, and the other side is the diet side. The diet side allows all animal products. The elimination side focuses on solely eating muscle meat for at least a month and then reintroducing foods to see how you react to them. And if you have a reaction to them, you'll know that they're not something you're supposed to eat. Now, the carnivore diet, that is the diet, is something you also should try, because vegetables might not be good for you. Who knows? We all have different genes. Now, the last diet I'd like to talk about. No, we have two diets left. And the next diet is basically all plant-based diets. Now, the only thing I have to say about plant-based diets are Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, which is a book written by Weston A. Price. Now, Price was a dentist during the 20s and 30s. He went around the world and tested a hypothesis that basically consisted of thinking that indigenous people don't have degenerative disease, but modern society has. Why? This must be because of the foods we eat. So he went around the world and saw what people were eating, or what indigenous people were eating, and he found that they didn't have any disease. And they ate, well, primarily animal foods. Now, the thing is, Price was a very vegetarian, and he hoped to find a group of indigenous people that didn't consume animal products at all. Unfortunately, he found none. No human living in nature has ever been plant-based for a prolonged period of time. You may have heard that the Okinawans were 100% plant-based during World War II, but that was temporary because they didn't have access to animal foods during that period. They eat meat, pork, and chicken. And fish, which is meat, of course. Now, the last diet is the Eat If It Fits Your Macros diet. Now, we know that restricting macronutrients isn't conducive to health, eating specific foods that work with you and have nutrition in them is conducive to health. So you can basically throw this diet in the bin unless you're a bodybuilder that has a contest in 5 weeks. Then you'd like to um, mess around with carbohydrates so that your muscles will look fuller because of the glycogen stores in them. Oh well. Now let us get into the dietary principles that I recommend you follow. The first one is combining food groups. Now, don't combine food groups that don't digest well, and I'll give you some principles regarding that. Always eat fruits alone. Don't mix fatty proteins with carbohydrates. Vegetables can be eaten with any group except fruits. And if you want to mix proteins with carbohydrates, make sure the proteins are plant-based. So you can eat rice with beans or rice with other legumes, that works. But don't mix rice with meatballs because those things don't digest well. Now think of it like this. Carbs, proteins and fats have different compositions and they need different enzymes to digest. Your pancreas doesn't like producing a million different enzymes. It wants to produce specific enzymes for a specific food. So you're basically confusing your pancreas if you eat different food groups, and some food will be left undigested and will rot in your stomach and intestines, and this causes bacterial, well, dysbiosis, so imbalances when it comes to bacteria, which causes further digestive problems and so on and so on. Now the next dietary principle is filling your diet with animal foods and organs. This is due to nutrition. Now I'll give you a task to convince yourself of this, and I will also leave a picture in the description, a link to a picture of course. The task is to go into chronometer.com, log in with Facebook and or Google. Now put in 200 grams of liver in the list of foods that you've eaten that day and look at the nutrition. Now remove liver and put any food that you deem healthy and see if anything beats liver or kidney or meat. And you'll seldom find anything that beats meat, and you'll never find anything that beats liver. And this is precisely why indigenous people filled their diets with animal foods, because they're the most nutritious and the most bioavailable when it comes to nutrition. Bioavailability is how much you absorb of the food. Not all foods are as easily digested as animal foods. So if you eat a broccoli, you might only get 20% of what's in the broccoli. If you eat liver, you'll get 80% of what's in the liver, or more, depending on how cooked it is. Now, the third dietary principle is very short, but it's what you eliminate, what you don't eat. So what I would recommend you start with is remove sugar, remove gluten, and see how you feel. Remove all processed dairy products and remove any hydrogenated oils. It's a myth that palm oil is the only oil that is bad. Sunflower oil, corn oil, palm oil are equally bad. All hydrogenized oils are bad. Butter is good, coconut oil is good. And if you hear the myth that saturated fat is bad, then tell the person who said that saturated fat is bad that there are many types of saturated fat, and saturated fat is just a word that groups a lot of fats together. There isn't a saturated fat, there are many saturated fats. Now the last dietary principle is observation. Every time you eat, you can observe many factors regarding what the food did to you. So if you wake up the next day and you've got things to remove around your eyes over here. That means that you got glycation end products by eating that food, and that is basically when you spike your blood sugar very high, and it has caused inflammation. Another thing to observe is how it comes out, or how long it stayed in your stomach. If you got bloated, if you got gas, that's also a sign that you should not eat the food. And for you health Jedis out there, you can buy a glucose meter and check your blood glucose 1 hour after the meal. Let's say you eat bananas frequently. I know that one of you does. Oh well. Eat 5 bananas, then check your blood glucose an hour later. If it's very high, then you should probably not eat bananas again. Oh well. So those were 4 dietary principles. Now I have 2 things to say. The first thing is that you may have noticed that the comments were turned off on the last video. That was a mistake. Hopefully they'll be turned on this video. I want you to ask questions because I'll be making a Q&A soon. Now the second thing is the quality of these videos. I'm not planning on editing them or cutting them in any fancy way, because I want to provide information. I don't want to entertain you. You want information, that's why you clicked on this video. You don't want to be entertained, so anything that entertains you will remove your focus from the information. So I'm doing this for your sake. Oh well. Ask questions down below. Over and out for now.